at the state level.
We'll ask you a little bit more about the Free State Project in just a moment. I want to remind you to send your tweets. You'll see the address at the bottom of the screen to Shelley Roche, because she does come on. Everybody waits for her to come on at the end of the show because she's just so wonderful at presenting your views to us. And some of your tweets will, of course, get through to us during the show. Some of the best ones we'll save at the end for Shelley. Tell us a little bit about your race. How does a libertarian challenge a conservative Republican in the United States today? What arguments do you make? What welcome do you receive? What resistance do you encounter?
Well, Judge, we've been receiving a lot of welcome. A lot of the constituents in the 4th District are hungry.
And this is where?
Oklahoma.
Okay.
4th District, Oklahoma. They are hungry for this constitutional conservative message. And I'd like to respond real quick to Cody and what Jason had to say. You were talking about, what do we do? We're on the slippery slope. And Jason's talking about concentrating his efforts in a certain area. What we can do is start to take back our Congress. We can get behind grassroots candidates who we know are constitutional conservatives and get behind them, support them with our volunteerism and with our donations, and get them elected and overturn this Congress.
That's one of the things that, if I could just interject too, I think I actually am not a libertarian. I'm vocal against any group think, including libertarian groupthink. The Republicans, Democrats, or any political party is rigid, and I want free-thinking individuals. I think that's sort of what you're referring to there. I do think there is the ability in this day and age with the technology revolution we have lived through. Twitter, I'm on twitter.com/Cody Willard. Reach out to me, follow me. You, I'm sure, if you're not on Twitter, you should get on Twitter and be able to reach out directly to your constituents so that you're representing them and not a rigid political platform on a national level.
Lou Rockwell, I heard a proposal the other day which goes as follows. States like New Hampshire, where Jason and his good lovers of liberty are working, and any other states where we can get a majority in the legislature, enact a resolution calling for a constitutional convention just to enact one amendment. And that amendment would be to rescind the 16th Amendment, which, of course, is the one that permits the government to tax our incomes. If enough states jump on that, Congress will have to take note.
Well, that's assuming that, of course, they don't send the Fifth Army or whatever to occupy the legislature. I mean, this bunch is getting so authoritarian in Washington that, they don't pay any attention to the Constitution as it is now. They pay no attention to any of or virtually no attention to the amendments. What little attention they pay, it's attenuating. So I'm all for that sort of thing going on. I liked it when Rick Perry in Texas talked about seceding. These are all wonderful things, but I must say sometimes I wonder whether political action, I agree with Cody, political parties are actually the way to go, or whether voting one guy in as versus another guy is really the way. I'm sure Mr. Harris is great, but I must say in my whole lifetime, the only person I've seen in the entire U.S. Congress who was any good in an objective 100% fashion is Ron Paul. The rest of them all have serious problems with them, not necessarily with them before or after office, but while they're in office.
Well,
so replacing one bunch of politicians with another bunch of politicians, is that really the way to go?
Before I let you go, is it hopeless? Are we doomed?
No, I don't think it's hopeless at all. I just don't think that government and political action is the answer to government and political action, which is the source of our problems.
All right.
So I think the answer lies in the human heart and the human mind. It lies in the American people. It lies in everybody learning more about economics, understanding what the Federal Reserve and the rest of the gang in Washington is doing to us, and refusing to give these people our support. I think they're constantly worried about legitimacy, about the support of the people, and with good reason, because if the people withdraw their support, Washington tumbles. So this is what we ought to be working for, I think, rather than voting and elections and campaign contributions.
Lou Rockwell from the Mises Institute, thanks very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. Until next Wednesday on Freedom Watch. Jason, what kind of resistance do you meet in New Hampshire when people try and move in there for the purpose of fundamentally changing the state so as to make it a place where its motto that you see on their license plates of live free or die really makes sense and really is the public policy of the government everywhere in the state?
Well, actually, we've gotten some resistance, but we've also gotten a lot of support. The local Republican Party, really, in New Hampshire is not a neocon Bush Republican Party. It tends to be more limited government. New Hampshire has the lowest state and local tax burden in the continental U.S. That's the tradition, really, that New Hampshire Republicans are defending. And so we've gotten a lot of support from them. We have gotten some attacks from the left, but even there we found some friendly voices. In fact, one of the Free Staters who's gotten elected to the state legislature got elected as a Democrat. So we have relationships on both sides of the aisle, and if I might take issue with Lou now, which is easy since he's gone, I think political action can work at the state and local level because that's where turnout rates are lower. People sometimes just pull for a party label, so you can get activists involved in the primaries and get good candidates in at that low level of politics.
People have moved from the other 49 states into New Hampshire and actually begun living, working, and voting there in an effort to see these miraculous changes in the next generation.
That's right. About 700 people are in New Hampshire now who've signed on to our statement of intent, which says that you'll work for a society in which the maximum role of government is protecting people's rights to life, liberty, and property. I myself moved to New Hampshire for a few months last year, and then a job brought me back to Buffalo, New York. But one of the ways that this works is that when you sign up on our website, freestateproject.org, you're only agreeing to move to New Hampshire if a certain other number of people also agree to move. And you can choose your commitment level. So, for instance, you can agree to move once 20,000 people have agreed to move. And we've gotten about 10,000 signatures to that level of commitment. Or you can choose a higher level of commitment and say, once 5,000 people agree to move, I agree to move. But as we're already seeing, people are moving now.
We have a lot of folks that watch and listen to this program every week who are devoted followers and ardent supporters of the Free State Project. And I know we have to let you go because Peter Schiff is going to join us on Fox News. My colleague Trace Gallagher is going to come into the room, and there's only a limited number of guests that we can have at one time. But I want you to stay in touch with my producers, and if you can, make yourself available on sort of a regular basis on these Wednesdays at 2 o'clock Eastern, because the project is fascinating. And there are hundreds of thousands of people that watch and listen to us on Wednesdays that ask about the Free State Project. So we wish you well. Thanks for joining us. Please stay in touch.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Is something like this feasible? Can all
so.
those who love liberty the way we do go to one part of the country and break the bonds that the two-party system has imposed on the rest of us?
I think the idea is noble and certainly revolutionary, and I love that concept that he's fighting for. I hope that we don't have to force people to move to a single state. I think it needs to be unfortunately, a national movement. I love Lou Rockwell's point that you don't. It's typical Republican Democrat regime thinking you fix more political action with more political action.
Well,
sort of like fix the debt problem with more debt.
Right. I assumed he was alluding to that. I think he probably said it because of you, because you do believe that. Now, I share that view theoretically, but as a practical matter, if this wonderful libertarian doesn't have some kind of a political organization behind him, pardon me, how can he get to first base?
I think that's the point of living in the year 2009. You do not need the political backing that you needed just 10 years ago to run for office.
Because
you have the ability to distribute your word for free. I ended up on a national television network on a show in a bar every day at 5 o'clock on Fox Business Network, by the way, called Happy Hour. And how did I get started? I was a cowboy from New Mexico, came here 13 years ago and used the technology to get published, to leverage one opening to another.
Aren't you still a cowboy from New Mexico?
Heck yeah.
A freedom-loving cowboy. The cowboys and cowgirls in Oklahoma, in the Republican Party that will resist you, what kind of arguments can they possibly make when you preach Barry Goldwater Republicanism? What do they preach?
Well, they really can't preach any type of good argument, Judge. It's a little bit of it's a whole lot of the same old, but I really have to respond to Lou Rockwell. I've heard a lot of this lately. I've heard a lot of folks saying, hey, let's take this awakening body politic of grassroots Americans that are waking up and going to the Tea Parties and joining Glenn Beck's 912 Project and so forth, and let's just keep it all educational and non-political. And I have to say, no. I have to say the time for educational only and neutral and non-political is over. Our Congress is ripping apart our Constitution, and